Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, I am Christine McKinley. I am a real estate agent here in the Central Florida area, and this channel is all about giving you the real, honest picture of what it's like to live here. Not the tourist brochure version at all, the real, honest truth. Today we are talking about Winter Park, Florida. If you have been doing any research on Central Florida, you've probably heard the name. Winter Park consistently shows up as the best places to live in Florida, and it has one of the most charming downtowns in the entire state. I would say that it rivals the Winter Garden area, but a lot of people know the Winter Park area more because I think it's just been around for a little bit longer. It really does have its own charming reputation, a beautiful reputation, really. It's old, it's historic, it's beautiful, and it's really just well kept. But I also want to be upfront with you, it is an expensive reputation also. So today I want to give you the full cost of the living breakdowns. We're going to cover housing, property taxes, the differences between the two zip codes, because maybe if you're just coming across Winter Park, you don't even know that there's two zip codes, but there are. The schools, groceries, utilities, healthcare, transportation, you name it, I'm going to go over it, because whether you are moving from, up north or maybe just a different part of Florida, you deserve to know exactly what you're walking into financially before you commit to coming to this area. Again, my name is Christine McKinley, and if you need any help finding your dream home in Winter Park, scan this QR code and let's get connected. Now, some of what I shared today is going to surprise you. Some of it will make you feel better, some of it will be things that you've expected, and some of it will make you think harder about which part of Winter Park is actually the right fit for you or your family, because yes, there is more than one part of Winter Park, and the zip code matters more than most people realize, especially those coming from out of state. So let's get into it. All right, so before we talk dollars, let me give you a quick orientation of Winter Park, because Winter Park isn't just a neighborhood, it's actually its own incorporated city. It sits directly north of Orlando, and when people say Winter Park, they are probably picturing like the beautiful Park Avenue, which is the tree-lined streets, the boutiques, the sidewalk cafes, and some of the best restaurants in all of Central Florida. And it's a genuine walkable downtown area, which is pretty rare in this type of Florida. And Orlando is not known for being a walkable area. You definitely need a car when you are moving to Orlando. But if you're in like the heart of Winter Park, it's a walkable downtown. But here's what most people, especially people coming from out of state, they just don't realize whenever they're starting their search, is that Winter Park spans two different zip codes. And those zip codes also, they're not only just two different zip codes, but they're two different counties. So 32789 is the western side. And this is what most people think of whenever they think about Winter Park. It is the Orange County side. It's home to Rollins College, the Winter Park chain of lakes, Park Avenue, and the Via neighborhoods, and some of the most expensive real estate in all of Central Florida. We are talking lakefront estates that go into the multi-millions, historic homes, and luxury new construction. Now, the 32792 side is the more eastern side. Parts of this zip code fall into Seminole County. Parts of it still do fall into the Orange County side. It is technically still Winter Park, but it has a completely different price point and a more suburban feel. It's closer to UCF and Full Sail University. So if you are going to either of those schools, maybe this section of Winter Park would be better for you. This is where families who want the Winter Park name on their address and access to some of the same schools without the price tag of 32789 will land. This distinction is huge, and I'll come back to it throughout this video because it affects your taxes, your schools, the price that you're going to pay in a home. So it's very important whenever we're talking about the cost of living in Winter Park. All right, so let's talk about housing. This is always the biggest number in anyone's budget, and Winter Park is no joke. So here's the honest picture. The overall median home price in Winter Park across both zip codes is about $600,000 to $650,000 as of early 2026, but that number by itself is almost meaningless without understanding the split between the two zip codes. So in 32789, the Orange County side, the old Winter Park side, the median sales price is hovering around 1.1 to 1.3 million for a single family home. So that's drastically higher than the 600 to 650 price point, but they have been relatively stable at that price since about 2022 or early 2023. That's kind of when that's when rates started to tick up. So prices kind of leveled out. This is where you are going to find the Via neighborhoods, the houses that are along Via Tuscany, Via Lugano. These are the gorgeous tree-lined streets with custom homes. The lakefront properties on the Winter Park chain of lakes are going to sit around $2 million for a vacant lot. And if there's a house on it, it's going to go around 10 million or even above. I think there's a beautiful one that I've been eyeing, not because I can afford it, but that I've been eyeing personally. That's about $12 million right now. Absolutely stunning. There are more accessible homes, even in 32789. There's condos, townhomes, and there's just smaller homes. But if you want a 4-bedroom single family home in the zip code, you should be budgeting right under $1 million. That $900,000 price point sounds about right. In the zip code 32792, the more western side, eastern side, the one that borders, it has a little bit of both Seminole and Orange County. The median sales price here is significantly lower. It's typically around that 450 to like 480 price range for a single family home. This is where you are going to find neighborhoods like the Winter Park Pines, which is again just a classic Florida ranch style home, 3 to 4 bedrooms, larger lots, and they're mostly built in the 1960s through the 80s. It's a great value play if you want to get into the Winter Park area without paying the 32789 prices. And we'll talk more about that whenever we get into the schools. The market has cooled somewhat from the pandemic highs. Homes are sitting on the market just a little bit longer. The average days on market in this area is about 55 to 85 days, depending on your price point. And sellers are more willing to negotiate than they were in 2021. Thank goodness. So if you are a buyer, this is actually a better window than it has been for several years. Now, in 32789, you're looking around 400 to 440 per square foot for single family homes. And in 32792, you are closer to like right around that $300 per square foot price. That is a real significant difference when you're comparing what your budget actually gets you. So not everyone is ready to buy on day one, and that is completely fine, especially if you're relocating and you kind of want to like just rent first and get to know the lay of the land and figure out which neighborhood feels right for your family before making a long-term commitment. So completely fine. So let's kind of go over those numbers that you can expect. Now, a studio or 1-bedroom apartment in Winter Park will probably run you around $1,400 to $1,600 a month. For a 2-bedroom apartment, we're probably talking $1,700 to $2,200 a month, depending on the neighborhood and amenities, whether it has a pool or a gate or anything like that. And then a 3-bedroom apartment or townhome is definitely over $2,000 a month, probably closer to that $2,500 a month price point and up. And then the single family homes, that's when things really do start to get expensive. We're definitely talking $3,000 a month for anything with 3 bedrooms and in a good school zone. So the more affordable rental pockets, they tend to be, of course, in that 32792 zip code around the Goldenrod areas, closer to like Cimarron Boulevard, which is also called 436 in some pockets of Winter Park. The most expensive rentals are obviously going to be right around that Park Avenue and in that old Winter Park neighborhoods, of course, because that's just where things are more expensive. One thing worth knowing is the rental inventory in Winter Park is huge. This is largely an owner-occupied community. And for those like mega rich people who are moving to the area, I can almost promise you they're not going to be renting out their winter homes. So competition is fierce, especially for good rentals. It can be pretty stiff, and you'll want to start your search earlier than you would need to. So again, reach out to me and we can get started on this. All right, so property taxes. This is where I want to slow down because this is one of the most misunderstood costs for people who are moving to Florida. And it's also where that Orange County versus Seminole County distinction really becomes financially meaningful. So first, the good news is that, of course, Florida has no state income tax. So if you are relocating from out of state, you probably already know this. That is real money back in your pocket. It's also an amazing reason why families choose Florida over so many other states, which of course keeps our property values nice and high. But Florida does have property taxes and they vary by county. So the zip code 32789, the part that is Orange County, the millage rate for Orange County for Winter Park is about 15.3 millage. And here's something worth knowing. The city of Winter Park has actually kept their portion of the property tax rate the same for 18 consecutive years. That kind of stability is rare, and it says a lot about how the city is managed, and the residents really appreciate that. At current values on a $1 million home in that 32789 zip code, you are looking at about $12,000 to $15,000 per year in property taxes, depending on your assessed value. So your first year as a new buyer, your assessed value will likely be close to your purchase price, but Florida's Save Our Homes, they cap limits on annual assessment increases to 3% once you establish the homestead exemption, which is a very meaningful protection over time. And if you relocate and you are one of my clients, I make sure that you do that. So don't worry about remembering that little tidbit. I will remind you. Now let's talk about Seminole County. So the portion of the zip code that is 32792, this millage rate is lower here. It's roughly about 13.3 millage. So this is about 2% cheaper than the Orange County side. So on a like $500,000 home, that difference can be about $1,000 or more per year in your pocket. And of course, over 10 years, that is a very meaningful number. Now, available to primary residents, one thing that Florida has that I absolutely love and I talk to all my clients about is the homestead exemption. This is available to primary residents. This gives you about $50,000 reduction on your assessed value. So you have to apply for it. It's not necessarily automatic. And again, I will remind you of that. Now, if property taxes are a key budget consideration for your family, the 32792, the Seminole County side of Winter Park, is going to give you a lower tax rate on the same priced home or a lower priced home. That is a double benefit and it adds up in a real way over the life of your ownership. Definitely something to keep track of. Let's talk about schools. If you have kids or you are planning to, this section matters more than any other number I'm going to give you today. Winter Park has a strong school reputation, and that's why a lot of people are relocating there. But let me break it down honestly. I'm going to go over some of the public schools, their ratings, and then the cost of the private schools. So Winter Park High is the anchor of the whole area. It serves students from both zip codes, and actually there's one other zip code that kind of feeds into Winter Park High, but just like a little section of that zip code. It consistently ranks amongst the top public high schools in Orange County. So here's what the data actually shows. Graduation rates between 88 and 97%, significantly higher than the Orange County and Florida state averages, which is absolutely incredible. In 2025, 71% of 10th graders were proficient or above in English language arts, compared to 57% for the Orange County district average and 58% for Florida as a whole. That gap is significant. Elementary schools worth knowing are Berkshire Elementary and Lakemont Elementary. They are consistently ranked the top public elementary schools in all of Winter Park. Lakemont has a 15-to-1 student teacher ratio and scores above both Orange County and Florida state averages. It earns a B+ on niche. It feeds into Glenridge Middle, and then from there, the kids go to Winter Park High. Baldwin Park Elementary is also highly rated and serves as some of the 32789 zones. Winter Park does have some of the strongest private school options in all of Central Florida. People drive from all over Orlando to have their kids attend these Winter Park private schools. So this is worth knowing if private education is something that your family values. I'll kind of go over, I would say, like the top 3. So Trinity Prep is definitely one of the more popular private schools. It's pre-K through 12th grade. It's a college prep institution with a very, very strong academic reputation, and tuition starts around $20,000 to $25,000 plus per year. Another really popular one is Lake Highland Prep. It is one of the most highly regarded options. It's known for both academics and athletics. And then, of course, Rollins College. It's literally located in the heart of Winter Park. It is a stunning campus. It is a nationally ranked liberal arts college right in the heart of the community, which adds just like a lot of intellectual character to the entire area. Now, in the 32792 zip code, your school zoning can fall into either the Orange County Public Schools or Seminole County Public Schools, depending on your exact street address. This is not a minor detail. The two districts have very different school zone reputations and different long-term outcomes for your kids. Always, and I mean always, verify school zoning by specific address before you make an offer on a home. Do not just assume based on zip codes alone that you are going to be granted access into the school that you want your kid to attend. All right, so let's talk about the real numbers on everyday cost, because this is where it quietly adds up every single month. Winter Park has some amazing grocery stores. I think, again, not only do people drive very far to like drop their kids off for these private schools, but they come in, we have like Trader Joe's, we have Whole Foods. So I'll get into all of that right now. We have Whole Foods on the 32789 side, which we also have the Trader Joe's nearby. There's Publix's throughout. And if you have not discovered Publix yet and you are from out of town, you are going to love it. We also are spoiled because we have a Wild Fork for meat. This is not a food desert at all. The options are amazing for both groceries and eating out. The prices do run about 5% above the national average for groceries. So a family of 4 typically spends between $900 and $1,100 per month on just groceries. Dining out is a completely different story. Park Avenue is lined with some of the best restaurants. So you can expect to pay $80 to $120 for 2 people out at one of these nice restaurants. But Winter Park also does have its casual spots, food halls, coffee shops, and just more everyday options. This is a city with a real food scene, and it comes at a real food scene price. It's part of what makes living here enjoyable, but make sure to budget for it accordingly. Florida sales tax is 6%, and then the Orange County adds another 0.5 to 1% on top of that. So you are paying about 6.5 to 7% on sales tax on most purchases. Now let's talk about what I call the monthly surprise cost. This one people don't fully account for whenever they're budgeting for their numbers whenever they're moving to Florida. Let's talk about the electric bill. Florida heat and humidity from, I would say, starting right now, like early May to September, means that your air conditioning runs constantly. During peak summer months, electric bills for a mid-size home can be $300, $400 for electricity alone. That is not the worst case scenario. That is pretty normal. So make sure to budget for that. The good news is that you won't have a meaningful heating bill. Winter here is in the low 50s, occasionally dips into the 40s. So your January heating cost is basically nothing. So on a yearly average, we are probably closer to that $250 per month price point. Homeowners insurance is one of the costs that genuinely catches people off guard whenever they move to Florida. So I want to be really direct about it. For a typical standard construction home in Winter Park, right around 2,000 square feet, the budget is around $2,500 per year. That's roughly $208 a month. And I would say that that is your baseline for a normal, well-maintained home. Now, if you're looking for something older, like a historic bungalow, a home built in like the 1950s or 1960s, or on the other end of that, if you're buying like a very big luxury property, you can definitely expect that number to be higher. Older homes in Florida can be harder to insure because of the roof age and wind mitigation requirements and just like the premiums that reflect that. So Florida's insurance market has been volatile statewide over the past few years, and Winter Park is not immune to that. And that is one of the biggest things that I talk about in my buyer consultation. So make sure to book a consultation with me and we can get into the nitty-gritty of the exact home that you're looking for and what you can expect in a home insurance premium. And actually, one of the very first things that I do once we're under contract on a home is get a quote for that exact property. I do not wait until we're almost at closing and then hit you with a home insurance quote. So we need to know that ahead of time. HOA fees. Many communities in Winter Park, especially the new build, like townhome communities, planned neighborhoods, and then obviously the condos have HOA. For a townhome, these fees can run $200 to $350 a month, just depending on the finishes of the home, the exterior of the home, how much landscaping, pool, gate, all that good stuff. Some HOAs cover landscaping, some cover Wi-Fi, cable, obviously the pools. All of them are going to cover exterior maintenance of the townhomes and the condos. Some are just for neighborhood upkeep, so that's going to run you a little bit less. But either way, always ask about HOA fees before you start mentally calculating your monthly payment on a home because they can be pretty significant. Okay, so we've gone over a lot of information. Let me put it all together with you in like a real world scenario because I think it's one of the most useful things that I can do at the end of a video like this. So for a family of 4 buying into maybe 32792, let's call it like a $550,000 home with 20% down, your mortgage at today's rate, which is around 6.35% on a conventional loan, is going to run you about $2,750 a month. Property taxes, I would say like $500 to $560 per month. Homeowners insurance, $280 per month. If you're buying into an HOA, then we're talking, again, that $200 to $350 per month. Utilities, let's call it $250 per month for like the yearly average. Groceries and dining, at least $1,000 a month. And then transportation for gas, for tolls, all that stuff, I would say $600 to $800 per month. So an estimated total monthly spend to live in Winter Park at a house of that caliber is approximately $5,400 to $5,970 per month. That's about $65,000 to $72,000 per year. And I'm sorry to even have to think about that number and say it out loud to you, but to live comfortably at that level, meaning you're covering these costs and you're still putting some money away, you would want a household income that is, $95,000 and up. That actually aligns closely with the Winter Park's median household income, which sits around $96,000 to $104,000, depending on the data source. Now, for 32789 buyer at a $900,000 price point or above, your housing costs alone, mortgage, taxes, and insurance are going to run, $6,500 to $8,500 a month. And before you add a single grocery run or a car payment, that household income needs to be at least $150,000 per year to be genuinely comfortable, and higher if you're looking at the luxury end of the market. These numbers are real, and I'm not trying to scare you off. I'm trying to make sure that you go in with, accurate expectations so that you can make a decision that you feel comfortable with and good about whenever you are thinking about moving to the Winter Park area. Now, here's what I want you to take away from this video. Winter Park is one of the most genuinely beautiful, well-run, most desired communities in all of Central Florida, but it is not a budget destination. If you are paying for something real, excellent schools, walkable streets, a true downtown that's so cute and quaint, long-term stability, and consistent appreciation. For the right family and the right budget, this investment case is very, very strong. The zip code you land in matters enormously. Again, the 32789 side is the prestige market, that historic lakefront, and price accordingly. The 32792 side is the smart value play, and you get into the Winter Park school system, you get proximity to the lifestyle of that Orange County side, and you do it without paying for. If you want to talk through which side of Winter Park or which Seminole County community altogether actually fits your family family's budget, like maybe you've watched this video and you're like, never mind, then that is exactly what I'm here for. So hit the link below or scan this QR code and let's set up a call and map out your plan together. Thank you for being here. Talk to you soon. Bye.